And we are live. And I just want to welcome you for another wonderful episode of Alejandro and Bob Unplugged. Alejandro Tornato here, coming directly from Beaufort, Georgia. And today, I'm going to skip the introduction because perhaps, we'll do the introduction together. So let me bring my dear friend and colleague, Bob DiGiacomo, to accompany me. How are you doing, my dear friend Bob? How's life?
So many questions. So many questions. However, I've got to make a note here. I've got to make something occurred to me because as you know, what is the word I'm looking for with the videos? I do the videos that you send the videos, and then I publish them up to YouTube. And I can't for the life of me. It's a senile moment. I can't remember the word I'm looking for. But one thing is precise that you have done each and every time that we get on to do an unplugged video, and it's almost like your branding is we are live, and it's like, well, let me just take my pulse here for a moment to make sure that that is a bona fide statement. I feel something. I feel something. So we must be live. Even when they're watching the recording, we must be live somewhere.
But listen, let me ask you a question. Because is to be live, is that the same thing as to be alive? I mean, there's a difference of just one A. Now, can one A make a difference in the state of a person?
Well, I don't know what state we're in because that is another serious dilemma because it's the state of being, it's the state of the country I'm sitting in versus the state where you're sitting. It's the state of affairs that are going on right now. So many, and of course, you and I are both coaches. So when you ask a question, I can't give you an answer. I have to give you a question because we answer questions with questions. And so I don't know if people are ever going to find the answers unless they just turn the volume down on us and say, let me think of the answer to those questions that they keep asking each other, because there's got to be an answer in there somewhere. But I was needing to let you know that I hope that you would excuse me only because just prior to us going live, I had to make sure that the windows were in good shape and the shutters were able to be closed if necessary, because we are now in hurricane season. And on any given day, at any given moment, of course, today with modern technology, we do get a little bit of a heads up. But storms can form out there. And in fact, I've been on the island of Bermuda 42 years. You and I were just commenting about that. You were like, oh my gosh, 42 years. Like it's a lifetime. A lifetime. And there have been a couple of instances where literally out of nowhere, a storm has almost developed right on top of us without warning. And everything went, I don't want to use, well, I'm going to say all hell broke loose. It was like, oh my gosh, we haven't been warned. So I didn't make sure that the windows were closed, the shutters were closed. I've seen cars blown over onto their sides. And I know we're going to be talking about the broken glass or broken window theory or syndrome. But of course, we're going to be speaking about it from a leadership perspective.
That's right.
As opposed to a demonstration perspective.
Well, you know, Bob, one of the things that characterize this time together is the fact that we are doing things completely unprepared and unplugged. However, I have to modify that statement a little bit because it's not 100% true. the fact that we do a little bit of preparation beforehand, so we don't come into this. I mean, I personally, and I think that you don't like to show up a turkey cold and just wing it. You know, I mean, there is a degree of unpluggedness with us, but at the same time, there is a degree of responsibility and preparation, because we owe it to our listeners, I mean, to really provide a content that is a value content, and you cannot wing it if you want to do that. And you said it correctly, that today we are going to be talking about the broken windows theory. And just before I give you the platform, I want to give to our audience two, I guess, definitions of what this broken windows theory. The first one, it's a little bit more complex. I mean, the broken windows theory is a criminological theory that states that visible signs of crime, antisocial behavior, and civil disorder create an urban environment that encourages further crime and disorder, including serious crimes. Now, with the less complicated and I guess more straightforward definition of what the broken windows theory is all about, this theory is about the concept that each problem that goes unattended in a given environment affects people's attitude toward that environment and consequently leads to more problems. So basically, if there is a problem and we do absolutely nothing about it, that problem will not go away, but it will get better, it will get bigger, and it will multiply. And with that, I'll give you the platform to you.
Well, we've had a great day here on the air, and you've summed it up beautifully. What are we going to be talking about on Monday?
This is what I called the unpluggedness factor.
I'm still, you know, I've got all that magic tape and everything else, and I'm just putting it all over my windows so that even if it breaks, it doesn't break. You've got to get windows in your life that are storm proof.
Yeah.
You know, when that tornado of life comes and it's throwing 2x4s at you, hypothetically speaking, of course, that they're not bursting through and making a mess of your day. And you're correctly correct that we don't really prepare, even though we do prepare, because if we didn't sort of prepare for these unplugged talks, there'd be a lot of broken windows occurring.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is that, you know, we do talk a little bit about the topic that we come up with, and quite frankly, the topic that we always come up with is an unplugged topic.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your normal everyday. Like if I were looking at one of John's books, any of the titles, you know, shift happens. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. Good leaders. Well, those are proper titles. We come up with some abstract things that are going to help you think and get over those everyday things that are going on in your life. Now, when I say that we're going to come at this from a leadership perspective,
mm-hmm.
I don't know how many people have been paying attention. Obviously, you're sitting in a nicely lit room. You've got, you know, in fact, you asked me, why am I wearing these? And the answer to that is that I'm supposed to be someplace else right now. I've shipped my entire house to another country, but it got there before I did because I couldn't leave the island because some windows started to break. They called it the coronavirus, the Wuhan virus, the Chinese, whatever you want to call it this week,
Yeah.
to be politically correct. But I'm still sitting here, and I don't have the things I normally would have, which would be a proper room and my wonderful microphone. And of course, today I'm sitting in a room that's not as well lit, and I may look a little sick as a result of that. I just went outside to see if I could record out there, and the wind is blowing again. A beautiful day, but the wind is blowing out there, so I can't. I can't. So where am I going with all of that? If we don't ensure that the first window does not break in things that we are doing, and it could be from a family situation, it could be from a job situation. Many of the people that listen and watch us are leadership speakers, trainers, and coaches in their own right.
Yeah.
That if they don't stem that, then this little critter that I refer to, that I was taught a long time ago, that, well, I actually had one on each shoulder. And there was a conflict. Maybe it's a good thing that I'm wearing these to keep the gremlins from whispering in my ears. But the gremlins were the guys carrying those big stones that they were there trying to break my windows. I won't talk about anything else they were trying to break, but they were breaking my windows. And this is a clean show. It's a family show. So if we don't work on keeping that first window from breaking, then it almost becomes a cascade where they say, oh, I got one window broken. Let me see how, oh, this is fun. Let me see how many more windows I can break. Maybe it was not preparing for that talk. Maybe it was not doing that research. Maybe it wasn't building your list of names. Maybe it was not being available for your kids' football or baseball or whatever. Maybe at the job you just decided, well, I'm not doing that work today. And most people do that around 4:30, but maybe it's an all-day thing. So I'm going to give the platform back to you, because those gremlins used to be permanently affixed, and they had their stones they were trying. And a couple of times they actually got through and broke a whole bunch of my windows.
Yeah. That's what happens. Now, just very quickly, referring to something that you said a few seconds ago, you said that we are doing things politically correct. Now, I was under the impression that the whole fact of being unplugged is just threw out of the window the politically correct things. So we try to be politically correct, but when Alejandro and Bob are unplugged, sometimes politically correct is not in the scheme of things.
And you know, that is correct. And not that I want to hide, because I have my personal ways that I think, you have your personal ways that you think, but that could be a major window breaker if we don't maintain an air of neutrality out there, because we don't know who our next clients are going to be.
That's right.
And sometimes you got to walk that fine line. And one of the main reasons that I do not put my personal opinions per se on my Facebook page is because that's a major window breaker.
Yeah.
You don't know who's looking at you.
You actually know who is looking at you, and the answer is the whole world is looking at you and me. And just, I don't know, I mean, if this is a part of the topic, of the general topic, or if I'm getting perhaps off a tangent on a branch, but Bob, how sad it is, because it is a very sad thing that human beings you and me and everybody else, that we are not free to express our deepest feelings on social media because of the fear that your boss may be watching, and then you may lose your job, because your ideas are not congruent with his or her ideas, and then you're out of the game instantly, or the fear that people are going to criticize you, or just get you in a corner and whatever. Hey, listen, everybody everybody has an idea. Why not having the freedom to express that idea without any fear of any harm of or bad or negative reciprocity? I mean, we should be people who accept other people's ideas. However, that is not the case. And that's what I said is very sad to see that. But when it comes to this theory of broken windows, when it comes to business, and especially, I mean, to leadership, you know, I was looking at an article, and it says that some examples of business or organizations broken windows, and there are 4 examples that they cite. The first one is not listening to customers. The second one is employee mediocrity. Employee mediocrity. The third is dirty and disorganized workplaces. And the fourth is toxic or bad or negative employees. Now, can you imagine those 4 things? And so it is the responsibility of leadership, of leaders, to really get things right and fix things, because the application of this theory to leadership is this: don't let problems stay problems for a long period of time. Fix problems right, and do so quickly, because otherwise they'll get completely out of control.
Well, you've mentioned a few other key points there. Disorder. If you allow disorder to enter into what you're doing, it's a sign that there are going to be some broken windows.
Oh, definitely.
And the environment that you're sitting in, it's going to be a sign that there are going to be some broken windows. Now, notice we're not referring to what's going on out there right now. It's a totally different parallel universe we're referring to. We're speaking about from a leadership perspective. If you choose to stay at level 1 leadership, or maybe even level 2, or I should say between 1 and 2, which there's going to be some broken windows.
Now, can you be a little bit specific for those of us who will watch the replay? What are you referring by level 1 and level 2 leadership?
Well, wait a second. We are live, right?
We are live.
Okay. So level 1 leadership is what they refer to as positional leadership.
That's right.
And it means I got this position. I've arrived. I don't need to do anything else to improve myself. I don't need to be any better than I am right now, because obviously I've been given this position. So therefore, but you know what? There are going to be some broken windows. People follow you because they have to, not because they want to. And in level 2, people are still following you because they have to. It's not until you get to level 3, 4, and 5 that people are following you because they want to, and other things are happening. And by that point, you don't even have to worry necessarily, although you always have to be on guard, but you don't have to worry about broken windows at that point because they are so well constructed and supported that it takes care of itself. But level 1 and level 2, it's like a danger zone. Again, it's almost, I'm going to use the word crime here, because what a crime it would be if we didn't ensure that we did what we needed to do what we need to do, which in turn is not allowing us to be all that we can be. That's going to lead to some broken windows. That would be a crime because we are not impacting the people around us the way we could and should.
That is exactly right. Yeah, that's. I think that it is. I think that it is the responsibility of leaders, of true leaders, because as you pointed out, there's so many so-called leaders that are stuck in that level 1 positional leadership. And it's, look at me, I have this title over my door, and it's either my way or there's no other way. Okay? When a leader has that attitude, the only thing that he or she can expect is not just one broken window, is the whole house being broken down, not just the window. So from a leadership perspective, this theory is extremely important because we have to, as leaders, and of course, I mean, when you're talking about leaders, you would expect people that are following you. When you are a leader, you are also, in order to prevent broken windows, is to give your followers, well, first of all, I mean, to develop a trust with your followers, but secondly, is to empower them to be responsible for their own actions in any given situation.
When I was a youngster, back in my old neighborhood, there were invariably always 1 or 2 houses in the neighborhood that weren't occupied. And they sat idle for a while. And some of the kids in the neighborhood, not me, of course, some of the kids in the neighborhood would always go, and it was always a great playtime for them to take rocks and throw them through the windows. Are we in such a way that we're sitting idly by, and the kids in the neighborhood, those guys I talked about, are going to come by and start throwing rocks at the windows of your house? And I've got 3 things here that I came across. It says, because we're doing everything from a leadership perspective,
sure,
go on a fact-finding mission and find key items that call for standards. Prioritize the top 3 to 5 items in each it says in each segment of your business, but it could be in each segment of your family. It could be in each segment of your business. It could be, you determine what you want it to be in. Conduct a thorough analysis of the top potentials of those. Because, all right, we're reducing crime. We're creating a policy. The crime, again, I mention, is the crime of not being all you can be and the impact it will have on others. I watched a webinar a couple of days ago, and that's the great thing about the Chinese virus. You get to sit in the house and all these things pop into your inbox, and everybody wants you to watch. But that's a good thing in a way. And the one thing that really hit is that because of social media, because of the internet, because of telecommunications,
Mm.
we are connected to people on the other side of the world, just like down the street, just like next door, just like somebody in the chair next to me,
Yeah.
like that. Not days, weeks, and months for a letter to travel by boat or by plane,
No.
but like that.
Instantly.
And we are a community of communities. And that answers your question as to why we have to ensure that what we put on our pages is not going to necessarily be offensive to somebody in another part of the community who last week, a year ago, 10 years ago, we would never have even thought of communicating, connecting, let alone communicating with.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think that the world, I mean, through the advent and the ever increasing levels of technology. Now, providing that technology actually works, because sometimes, I mean, technology doesn't work the way that we wanted it to work. But the world definitely has become so much smaller in terms of reaching out and actually people reaching out to us. But certainly, I mean, this topic of or this theory. By the way, another little snippet of research that I did. Did you know that this theory of broken windows was originally proposed by two social scientists named James Wilson and George Kelling, as a metaphor for disorder within neighborhoods. I mean, these two guys, I mean, they came up with this theory of broken windows. I guess perhaps they saw that once the first window was broken and nobody did anything about it, then instead of just not having any more problems, it escalated to a second window and a third window and a fourth window. And so things just became bigger and worse and more chaos. And talking about chaos, Bob, one of the and this is from my days in chemical engineering. I mean, one of the laws of thermodynamics is the fact it talks about chaos, and it talks about the state of the universe or the state of any system. When you don't do anything to a system, whatever the system is, that system by nature automatically tends to go in the direction of more disorder and chaos, as opposed to going into a direction of becoming more organized. That means that through the law of thermodynamics, it requires energy to bring a system into order, as opposed to just do absolutely nothing, and that system will automatically flow into a complete state of disorder.
So there you go again. I need to make sure I've got that wonderful tape that you see on TV, so that when there's a crack in my glass, I can quickly plug the hole. And I just want to mention one point, because I know we're getting ready to close out for today. You need to ensure that fake news is not an aspect of what goes on when it comes to broken windows, as well as fact checking.
Mm.
You must do that. Now, I'm going to put out a call to action here. Obviously, this is going to be posted on your site, my site, and on my YouTube channel, and so this will be there for you guys to share. But
and also on our podcast,
oh yes, on
Alejandro and Bob Unplugged podcast on Apple Podcasts.
Yes, they find that on iTunes. But I would like to ask in the month of June that you go to Robert DiGiacomo and go to my YouTube channel and participate in my 30 days of blessings and miracles in the month of June. Now we're into day 5, so I've already posted 5 specific videos to get you thinking about the blessings and miracles that, yes, they are occurring in your life. You just may not be, maybe these guys are keeping you from knowing that there are some blessings and miracles occurring. And take the journey with us in the month of June. It could get to be contagious.
Well, you see, good things are contagious, and that's what that's our desire for this segment every Monday and every Friday, to really pour into, and we thank you for following us and for allowing us to really pour into your lives. I mean, Bob and myself, I mean, I consider myself, and I know that Bob also, we are agents of change and transformation in people's lives. And this is part of helping you to think perhaps in a different way. I mean, to elevate wherever you are, to elevate your level of awareness even higher, because there's always room for improvement. And having said that, it's always great, I mean, to share this times with you, Bob. Great. I keep learning and growing and being on that journey to become the very best, the very best version of myself. And as I always encourage you to live every moment, to be resilient, and also to be kind, to be passionate, to be intentional, and to be well. Thank you very much. Until Monday, you have a great rest of the day and weekend. Take care.
Bye-bye.